Previously on Libel the Bible.
Yahweh hates the Israelites and commands them to remove all their ornaments.
Joshua entered the tent of Yahweh and hasn't been seen since.
Yahweh is so disgusted by the Israelites, he refuses to travel with them.
Moses makes new tablets for the covenant.
Yahweh proclaims himself to be slow to anger and full of love.
But if you double-cross him, he'll fuck you and your kids and their kids and their kids.
Moses gets irradiated.
Instructions for building the tabernacle are relayed once more.
And now, the Season 2 finale. Good evening, everybody. I'm Scott.
I'm Rusty.
This is Libel the Bible.
What's up?
What's going on, man? How was your week?
Week's been super good. We're recording this on a Thursday. We usually record it on a Sunday, and then we release episodes about like 9 or 10 days after we record them. But this episode we're actually going to release like on Tuesday, so that's like, what, 4 or 5 days away now, right? From Thursday to Tuesday, if my math is correct, somewhere between 4 and 5 days.
Yeah, math's cool.
So when people hear this on Tuesday morning, it'll be fairly topical. Like usually, like they're listening to shit that happened, you know, that we comment on that could have been like 2 weeks prior to when they listened to it. So when you ask me how my week is going, fucking awesome, because the Rangers are in the conference finals, baby.
Man,
and they won game 1 last night of the conference finals. 3 more wins until the Stanley Cup final. Was not expecting any of this. I'm playing with house money at this point. It's all awesome.
Nice. I'm glad that when I found out about it, because I could give a shit about, most sports, but I'm glad, I don't have to sit in a room with you being all mopey and cranky, more than usual. I mean,
Well, after they beat the Penguins, that was all I wanted for this team, because they're the youngest team in the league. So all I wanted was that one win. Everything else is gravy. This is just amazing at this point. Like, what they're doing now is just awesome.
Is it any coincidence that you like the youngest team in the league?
Oh, no. It's on purpose. I was scouring, like, the hockey encyclopedia.
Yeah. So, what did I do this week? Oh, you didn't ask. That's right.
I didn't ask.
Right.
I don't care. I got all that shit out of the way before we went on air, so we wouldn't have to slog through. I asked you, did you see Maverick?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
But you did hear that I went to a break room.
Yes, you went to a break room.
It's a room where you put a helmet on and they hand you a sledgehammer and a lot of breakable shit, and you just go crazy. And I was like,
it doesn't sound too different from when you were a lineman.
You're just breaking a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, at first I was like, I'm not really going to get into this. And then it was a lot of fun, man. Throwing bottles against the wall.
What'd you break?
Mostly computer equipment. It was funny because you get your standard amount of stuff to break.
I don't know what standard is. What's a standard amount?
Like
an office worth?
Yeah, lots of bottles, lots of printers, some keyboards. You had to pay extra if you wanted to throw monitors and
you get a literal sledgehammer.
Yeah, sledgehammer, a couple baseball
bats.
But
you don't use them on the bottles, right?
We did,
You did use them on bottles.
We were pitching it. Self pitching.
You're wearing regular clothing.
Yeah, they give you like a smock, like kind of a.
I'd be afraid of shards flying into my shins or just exposed areas.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's very scary. It's not for you, man.
Yeah. I'm too neurotic for that.
Yeah, you need to stay home.
I'm surprised you did.
Where it's safe.
I mean, the anger, yes. For the anger, I could see you definitely doing that.
Yeah, so a couple baseball bats, a couple of crowbars, and some sledgehammers, and some breakable shit.
That's cool.
What was crazy was also, it was actually a bar also, and you could get, bar food afterwards. They had a throwing range.
You're going to smash bar food?
No, you eat the bar food.
You eat the bar.
But you were allowed to take your empty beer bottles and your cocktail glasses and go to the throwing range and just launch them against the wall. Bizarre, like regular glasses. I'm thinking that was kind of wasteful.
This sounds like, what are we talking about? Like $150 a person?
It was a gift. I don't even know. Not even
That sounds very expensive.
And you got to think, I mean, except for the rent, I mean, it was in like Midtown Manhattan, on 9th Avenue, so it wasn't that bad. But that's had to be an expensive place. But all the stuff you're wrecking, I'm sure they just go to recycling events and just pick all that crap up.
Right. But like they're letting you throw
I didn't understand
your
the glasses.
dinnerware?
The bottles I could understand because they just get broken down anyway to be recycled. But like the glasses seem like overkill.
Yeah. I mean, they probably get like really cheap glasses. Do they feel cheap?
They
what were you drinking?
Real nice. I was drinking some crappy drinks. I don't know. So it was nice.
So would you recommend?
Yeah, I would. They got this like cheesy wire that comes out of the wall. You plug your phone in so you can crank up your own music, and it's pretty cool. I guess.
Right.
I don't know if I would do it again.
Right.
It was fun doing it once, but then we went over to that little island that they built in the east in the Hudson River. You seen this thing?
No.
It's they put all these concrete pillars.
Where in the Hudson?
Closer
to downtown, closer to midtown. Like you don't have to tell me exactly where.
I want to say in the teens, maybe.
Okay, so that down by like Chelsea.
Yeah, it was above Chelsea, so maybe in the 20s, maybe the low 20s.
Okay,
and they basically poured this concrete in the river. DEP doesn't matter.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I think the island. Yeah. I've been there.
Oh, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool there.
Interesting.
And then like the steps, you can go up, right?
You can roll down the hill.
Yeah,
it was much bigger than I thought it was going to be. Nice bathrooms too.
I don't know about the bathrooms.
Yeah, try and figure out where the hairdryer is.
There you go. You were wondering what should we do with Libel the Bible once we're finished discussing the Bible. We can do a podcast about New York City bathrooms. Like every week, we can talk about bathrooms in New York.
We can do that. I go to a lot of them.
I believe you. Yeah. Between like
your
chronic like alcoholism and weak bladder, I would think you've seen them all by now.
I was about to argue when I'm literally holding a bottle of wine in my hands. Fuck you, man. Now you're getting the pour. All right, so we got an end of an era we're going to talk about tonight, huh? I did want to mention one more thing. I was going to say when I said, how was our week? And I was going to say, at least America didn't have a mass shooting since the last time I spoke to you. But
yeah, no,
silly me. I made
back
the mistake
to the repeat.
I put it on the news. Mistake.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. It was just a hospital. It was only 4 people.
Oh, we didn't even discuss the one in Texas with the school.
Did we mention that last week?
No, because that happened after we recorded.
Oh, that's great. Oh, right. Cause
it's just every day there's a mass shooting at this point. By the way, there was another shooting in a hospital in Oklahoma on the same day as when that guy killed the 4 people, but that didn't get reported because the guy killed the 4 people in another hospital.
Yeah, probably.
It's like mass shootings don't really.
Isn't that
get
weird
reported.
that you have to like kind of pick and choose which mass shooting you want to report on because you only have so much time?
Well, you only have so much time because you have to report on Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. We got to cover that one too.
Yeah, so what we should
what doesn't get reported on, Scott?
What?
Yahweh. Yahweh never gets reported on. He gets talked about.
I did see there was a big cross on the church that got shot up.
Oh, was there?
It
nice
was.
Big cross?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Maybe it wasn't big enough.
Somebody was passing around a picture like in the atheist like world this week of like, it was just like a meme and Jesus is somewhere and in the picture Jesus is wearing a cross. And it's like, why would Jesus have worn a cross? You know what I mean? Like you wear the cross because Jesus was crucified on a cross.
Well, he knew
Jesus himself would not be wearing a cross.
You can almost, like when they, I hate to talk like this, but when they talk about like women getting assaulted, like sexually assaulted or whatnot,
yeah.
It used to be like a thing. To be
when
like,
they talk about women being sexually assaulted.
And they would say things like, well, what was she wearing? Like that matters.
Right.
So now I'm thinking, maybe there's something to that because maybe had Jesus not been wearing a cross, they wouldn't have had the idea to crucify him on a cross.
Right. The Romans were like, holy shit, that's a really good idea. I bet you if we stretch out some guy's arms, we could nail him right to those boards.
We shouldn't be talking about this because we don't know about who Jesus is yet, and we don't know that he's going to die on a cross. But, yeah. Is a crucifixion just being nailed to something, or is it specifically being nailed to a cross?
No, the crucifixion was being nailed to those posts that became known as crosses later on.
I mean, is that what a crucifixion is? Being nailed up in that kind of manner? Or is it just, you know what I mean? Like, could you get nailed to a wall? Could you get tied up on railroad tracks?
Oh, I see. Well, the crucifixion was on the post because it wasn't like they had a ladder and they climbed up, right? So, like, you were lying on the ground on this cross. They nailed you in while you were lying on the ground, and then they stood the cross up. Yeah. So with a wall, they wouldn't really be able to do something like that, you know?
Do you think when they nailed him to the cross when he was on the ground, he was like, this can't get any worse? And then they hoisted it up, and he's like, it's worse.
So do you know why you die when you get crucified? You don't die from bleeding out.
Don't like the birds come and kill you? Like
no.
The buzzards come and get you?
No, it's yeah, man, it's horrific. You die because you're on the cross, so you're nailed, right? So you're not nailed through your palms, like all those pictures with Jesus nailed through the palms. You're nailed through the wrists, because if you were nailed through the palms,
your hands would just rip, right?
They'd rip. Yeah, you would rip through it. So because you're nailed through the wrists, you're like up there, but all your internal organs, gravity starts pulling them down. So while your body is nailed up on the cross, your internal organs are slowly like moving down, down, down. And so you wind up dying from like asphyxiation and exposure, because like you're outside, you're exposed to the elements, and you basically run out of breath eventually because like your insides start to press. I don't know, like the physiological, like what's going on inside, but like you suffocate while you're like.
That seems like a pretty humane way to get rid of somebody.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Exodus 37.
Sure.
Weird segue, right?
Yeah.
Talking about Jesus and then going back to Exodus.
Honestly, I don't know what to talk about because
I don't either. So
we've been at the mountain for quite some time.
I got some questions though, some stuff.
All right.
So basically, they start talking about making the Ark of the Covenant. That's the first one.
Well, hold on. Let's just take it back real quickly. So God has given them the command at this point to leave Sinai, get rid of all their ornaments, and like, let's move on. We're going to leave. And right.
That's what I meant to ask you, because this first, Exodus 37 goes through making the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes.
And that guy Bezalel, who was given the skill, made the Ark. Then he also made the table for the bread of the presence. He made the lampstand. He made the altar of incense. He made the anointing oil and the incense.
Yes.
And but he had help from the perfumer, I believe.
Okay.
Somebody had to mix the chemicals or whatever.
Okay. Honestly, I didn't take any notes. I highlighted all like the sections that you just mentioned.
That's what I did. I got a couple.
Yeah, it's just him building like
making the altar of burnt offerings, making the court of the tabernacle in excruciating detail.
Mm-hmm. That's Exodus 38 now. You're on Exodus 38.
They just flowed into another boring episode.
Yeah.
All right. Then he goes into the materials of the tabernacle, which I do want to speak of. But when I was reading this, I was like, didn't we hear all this before? Didn't they actually not build any of this before? They just talked about it before?
Yeah, and we talked about them talking about it before, and you had brought up the point that it's kind of like IKEA furniture. Right. So like,
I remember that, but they didn't actually build it. So this is the first time it's actually getting built.
This is being built now, yeah.
Okay. That's fine. And then here's where you always say this didn't happen. This definitely happened.
Okay.
Because in Exodus 38, 21, entitled The Materials of the Tabernacle. And by the way, the other guy, Aholiab, while Bezalel is the guy who's working in the wood shop, in the metal factory, and with the anvil and everything.
I'm going to pause you for a second.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, continue. We'll fix it in post-editing.
I'm
wondering, like, your mic, I don't know if it's positioned quite properly. No, that's even worse. Lower it.
Hold on, man. I'm going to put it... it's going right here.
What are you doing, man?
I was doing just fine. So you, like... Now it's all jammed up.
Scott doesn't know how to use his mic.
All right.
So materials of the tabernacle.
Yeah, and all right. So Bezalel is the guy who does all the hard work. Then Oholiab is like the engraver, the designer, the embroiderer. He's like the less physical of the property brothers. Okay. Right. So now there's almost a ledger here that all the gold from the offerings needed that were used in the construction equaled 29 talents and 730 shekels. So I guess a talent is a form of currency.
I don't know.
Yeah, as measured by the sanctuary shekel. So apparently they have a standardized kind of unit of measure now.
Okay. Why is it called the sanctuary shekel?
Because I don't know.
Okay.
I don't really go into it. It's like it's like they start talking about it like you're supposed to know about it.
Okay.
Already. The silver from the congregation that was donated by the congregation, 100 talents and 1,775 shekels.
Okay. The congregation being what? All the Israelites?
I don't remember. I don't know.
All right. So hold on for 1 second. I'm sorry. I just remember God killing every firstborn Egyptian male and then being like, yo, we got to get out of Dodge, grab everything real quick, bake some bread, but we ain't got time for it to rise, and let's leave. They had time to grab all this gold, and I don't understand where.
You're forgetting. The Egyptians kind of just gave it to them. Like they didn't have to. I think they was like, "Hey, here's some stuff while you on your way out. Get the fuck out. Don't what they're doing. I don't
understand. Then why did they have to flee so quickly?
Dude, man, you're trying to recap something that happened like 4 episodes ago.
More than 4 episodes ago. It's just I'm just trying to understand where they're getting all of this shit from, because it was made to
dude, you know what you sound like right now? You sound like someone who just sat down on the couch next to someone who's watched the whole series.
Yeah.
You just sat down at season 2 finale. Like, I'm gonna stop you. I gotta hit pause on the DVR
and explain everything.
Explain it to you, or go, dude.
But I watched the whole season, and I still don't understand.
You don't remember. You understand.
I don't think it's that I remember. I think this speaks more to the way this was written and not explained than to my absent-mindedness.
I think you're gonna go back and find out. That they
I am gonna go back.
Yeah. Don't go back.
No, I'm going to go back because I want to know where this gold and silver and all of these adornments came from.
Came from the Egyptians, man. They plundered them.
All right.
All right. And a Becca a head. So a Becca a head apparently is a half a shekel. And I was like, is a Becca a head? Or is it a Becca per head?
And this is all materials for the tabernacle.
Yes, that was used. Okay. So a half a shekel for everyone counted in the census, right? So they took the silver and they made all the bases for the sanctuary and the curtains or anything that needed a base, they used the silver.
Okay.
So this is a pretty accurate, and then, you know what? Then they said bronze contributed 70 talents and 2,400 shekels. So there was a ledger. Why make up this detail if none of this happened?
Because the numbers meant something. I mean, I'm not saying that they did make it up. I'm not saying there wasn't a ledger. I mean, there probably wasn't a ledger. But the numbers have significance to the people who wrote this. All these numbers have some kind of mystical significance. I don't know what else to explain.
All right, if you say so. So now I'm curious Bezalel?
Well, what's your theory, Scott, that a ledger existed, that the Israelites fled Egypt, hung out at the foot of Mount Sinai, while this alien communicated with them for a full year?
Yeah.
This is what you're alleging, that this took place.
I'm alleging a ledger. I'm not yes.
Right, so if a ledger happened, then that means that what we're reading is actually occurring.
I've said
Scott,
all along.
do you think this is actually occurring?
I've said all along, yes. I believe these events actually happened. Whether they happened in quite this manner or whatnot, I don't know.
Okay.
But there's so many details.
Okay.
That why would who made up this boring story?
There's so many details.
Dude, man.
There's a lot of details in Harry Potter. It doesn't mean that Harry Potter happened. Harry Potter has enough details for like 8 movies that are like 3 hours each.
Yeah. So Lord of the Rings, man, I gave up reading some of those.
Yeah, I mean,
so many details.
Yeah.
But there were details about like describing the environment. Like this is, why would it? Wait a minute.
It's all like allegorical, and it's all meant to like.
I see what you did there.
What?
Because I was saying, well, who would be interested in like financial details like this? And now you're saying who? These people are interested in financial details, huh?
I didn't say any of that.
Why are these people so interested in financial details,
say
Russ?
any of that.
So this is an exciting story for these people, huh?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'd like to get on the same page at this point.
I'm not getting on that page, man.
What, in your mind, if you had to say percentage-wise, what percent would you say you think the events being described in Exodus actually happened?
I believe, what percentage?
Yeah, like what percent?
I believe maybe close to 100% of these events happened, but maybe not anything like they're being described.
But there was no Exodus.
Says you?
Says historians.
Because there was no evidence, because there's no written record of it? This is the written record. We've talked about this. This is a textbook.
Why isn't there a written record from an actual civilization that existed at that period of time that kept written records?
When the Egyptians were around, were there any Egyptian records aside from the hieroglyphics we found?
Yeah.
Oh, there was.
They have ledgers.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, of like trades and shit, like farmers trading, like with merchants, like all that existed, yes.
Maybe they want to erase the Hebrews from their history. Nope, that didn't happen. Nothing to see here.
Okay.
It's like when you go to Germany and you're like one of them tour buses and they start describing things and they go from like the 1920s and then all of a sudden they're talking about the 1950s and you're like, well, what happened in between? And the guy screams out, nothing happened in between. Everybody was on vacation. Everybody was fine. Like that's just left out.
So there wasn't like a single Anne Frank amongst like the Israelites, the hundreds of thousands of Israelites that like wrote a diary or kept a journal or any artifact or like anything that could have been like,
well, that's what this is probably.
Just
probably
the one ledger.
This is probably
from hundreds of thousands of people.
No, this is all the ledgers
wandering
they
in
found
the desert for
into
40
one book, right?
Yeah.
You said it was written over a bunch of years by a bunch of different people.
All right. So, all right. I'm not going to argue with you. This is your belief. I'm going to tell you that I think it's, you know, I think
it's a lot of details.
So then when we're having the conversation about Moses on the mountain, you're literally believing that it's an alien in a spaceship.
Right, because if I believe it happened,
then you
and
must
I don't believe
believe
it's God, I must believe.
You must believe it's either an alien, Atlantean, Superman, a time traveler, an archaeologist who discovered like an ancient civilization. Shit. Like,
I got to go all in on that then, right?
Yeah, it's got to be one of those things, or it's God.
Well, since it's not, maybe I start a religion over this, man.
What's the religion? Who are we worshiping? Yahweh?
I haven't decided yet. We're not at the end of the story yet.
Right.
So I see what you're saying, though. But if I'm all in for this, I have to believe.
Well, you keep wanting to move on, but you still haven't reconciled whether or not any of this actually happened. See, right. For me, it's simple. No, these are just like tales that are being told. It's an origin story. It's like when Rome was founded by two like brothers who were raised by a wolf.
Okay, so when someone's telling their kids this bedtime story, are they like, Papa, please tell us how many more cubits in length the tabernacle was than the tent, and blah 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 blah. Like, what? Is that why would that be in a story?
Because when people, okay, have you ever read like a Stephen King novel?
Yes.
So in a Stephen King novel, Stephen King is very specific when he like introduces a character or a character's setting, where they are. Like he describes like the size of a room or the shape of a face or the gait of a stride. Well, why? Why would he need to describe any of those things?
All right.
Because they're descriptions, but on top of that, I honestly, from everything that I've read, numbers in the Bible, especially the Old Testament, are extremely significant.
All right, well, until we see some significance of that. Is that a significance revealed in the Bible? Or just
I don't think so.
Trying to make a paycheck
I
in
think,
the 21st century wants to say something about numbers being important.
You keep talking like the Bible exists in a vacuum by itself without in no context. But the people who lived at the time that the Bible was written, there were other texts that were written, and there were other studies done. And not only that, but there were many books that just weren't included as part of the Bible, right? There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of texts
written by a bunch of different people over a different amount of time.
No, from the time period that this was written. And my point being that the people, historians who study the Bible, also studied the texts that were occurring parallel to when the Bible was being written. And let me finish.
I didn't speak. I just pointed.
And in that time that the Bible was being written, there were texts with numbers, and the significance matches up. You see, you're making all these faces, you make these claims, and
okay, I'm ready to retort.
I know you were ready to retort before I even said anything. So how about I just shut my mouth and you can fucking talk the whole time?
Are you gonna be
Let's
like this
do that.
You're gonna be like this the rest of the episode?
Yes.
We're gonna go back to all the episodes. We're gonna go back to all the episodes, and
go
we're
ahead,
gonna see how many
fucko.
times you interrupted me, and I did not complain.
Go ahead, fucko.
Fucking crybaby. So anyway, so you're saying that this book was put together probably by scholarly people that were reading all the text, and they picked the best of, or the parts that most easily explain the story.
That's not what I'm saying.
They just took out the most interesting parts?
No, what I'm saying. Are you talking about Exodus, or are you talking about the Bible as a whole?
I'm talking about what we've read so far.
No, what we've read so far, so Exodus, for example, that was probably written by if not one person, a small group of people working together over a short period of time.
I'm going to tell you this. Whoever wrote the latter part of Exodus, they were paid by the word. They had to submit a 1,000-word essay, and they just kept counting, and because they literally repeat the directions.
Well, then you're answering your own question about why be so detailed. You're arguing against yourself.
That's fine. Maybe I'm discussing with myself. Maybe not everything's an argument, Rusty. Maybe everything's just a discussion with me. Maybe it's also possible.
You're right, Scott. It's my fault. Yeah. I apologize.
Yes, thank you. That's all anybody wanted to hear.
What's the timestamp right now?
26:53.
It only took 26:53 to get gaslit this episode.
No, I gaslit you earlier about.
Oh, did you? I didn't even notice.
You said these people like details about finances.
So I'm trying to. Okay, so I'm trying to get a serious read on you, and I don't know if you're fucking around or what. I'm you got to be honest.
Okay, listen, man.
This is where the frustration's coming from. Shut the fuck up and let me finish.
Okay.
Do you believe that the events that we're reading about right now actually happened? Do you believe that the Israelites escaped Egypt, that the Egyptians who followed them were flooded by the fucking river or the sea or whatever, that these people camped out at the base of Mount Sinai while all these instructions were given to them, while a UFO or a time traveler or whatever, everything we've discussed, do you believe these events happened?
When you break it down like that, I kind of sound like an idiot. But as of right now, yeah, I'm going with that.
All right, so you honestly believe this?
Listen, man, I believe something happened.
And you believe it because they describe things in such detail. How else, why would they need to do that? But then you said the guy's getting paid by the word.
I'm just helping you out.
You're helping me out.
Anybody can say that didn't happen. All right. You got to prove a negative, man. Right. You got to prove a negative.
All right. So we're going to continue.
Wait, I have another theory. I have another theory. Maybe when they were putting this book together, they found blueprints and they made a story around it. That's why a lot of the story is the highly detailed description of how to build something. They found blueprints, and they found a ledger, and they built a story around that.
Who, like the people who wrote this, for example,
yes,
their society found it.
Oh, I mean, who found them? Oh, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know who found them. Maybe the guy was walking through a museum, saw the museum pieces, and made a story about it.
Right. Okay.
Just saying. I don't know. Listen, man, at the beginning of this episode, before we started recording, you're like, what are we going to talk about? There's like nothing to talk about in these final episodes.
Or,
now,
counterpoint, they already had had all of this kind of shit set up, like the tabernacle and what it was made out of. And they were like, we have to come up with a story for like why everything looks the way it looks. How about that, Scott? Isn't that like Occam's razor?
You know. See, that's what we're here for. Not for the attacks on me personally. Not for the frustration. For the dialogue, man.
Yeah.
Finally, you've contributed to this episode.
Okay. So, are we still on the materials of the tabernacle?
so you did, maybe by your thoughts. The tabernacle was already there, and somebody just went through with like a what do you call it? A checklist, and like just did like an inventory of like how it was made and everything, for no particular reason.
No, I'm talking about when Exodus was being written. They already had established like their places of worship.
Yeah, so let's move on to Exodus 39. Making the vestments for the priests.
Okay. For the priesthood.
Priesthood. Sorry, I couldn't read my own writing. Yeah. So this goes back to this. They already described this in excruciating detail that Aaron and his sons were going to be given. You ready for this? Either bio suits or space suits, because they were the only ones that could approach Yahweh.
Yeah, they had to wear like special clothing.
Go past the line. Yeah,
right.
But there was something that was written here, and I didn't want to look it up. They mentioned the rosette of the holy diadem. Diadem. Do you know what a rosette or a diadem is?
Well, I know a Rosetta Stone.
Yeah, I wonder if that's where they got it from. Maybe when we learn the definition of rosette.
Okay, I don't know what a rosette is.
And a diadem, diadem.
No.
Holy diadem.
Like a diameter?
Yeah, diadem, whatever.
So you don't know?
I don't know.
Oh, because you said it like you were going to tell me. You're like, do you know? No, I was waiting for you to tell me.
I said I didn't want to look it up.
Okay.
You could,
All right. No, I didn't look that up either.
We'll put it
I really skimmed over like 37, 38, 39. Like, it was just nonsense.
All right. So 39, 32, the work completed. The Israelites had done everything that the Lord commanded Moses. One guy did all this. Like, literally, one or two guys did all of this.
Well,
and what were they doing?
Maybe they were foremen and they like hired like laborers, you know. It is a lot of work.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this must have taken a long time, and I'm just wondering what these other clowns were doing this whole time.
Well, I mean, look, when you learn about like Valley Forge and the crossing of the Delaware River, it's like you're not like really learning about the guy who's like rowing the boat. You know what I mean? Right. It's like George Washington.
Right. You don't hear about Joey bitching about the work hours.
Right.
All right. Okay. All right. So they're running shit basically because they had the skills. Oh, and they did say earlier on that the other people were given skills to facilitate.
Commensurate with whatever job was required.
Right. They had to get matrixed in. Oh, yeah. We did discuss that. Okay. All right.
So that gets us to Exodus 40.
No, we're not there yet.
Oh, you were not. You're still okay. You're still on the work completed.
Yeah. Now they bring all the stuff to Moses, and in detail, I'm just going to run real quick through. They bring the tabernacle, the tent, the ark, the curtain, the table, the utensils, the bread, the lampstand, the lamps, the oil for the lamps, the altar, the anointing oil, the incense, the screws for the screen for the entrance, the bronze altar, the hangings, the pillars, the bases, the vestments. And on and on and on. Basically, everything they just described in detail, they described how they brought them in detail. And then Moses saw that they did well, and they blessed him. He blessed the Israelites.
Okay.
That's better than what he did last episode and killed 3,000 of them, right?
Well, in fairness, they got a little naughty. They were worshiping a golden calf.
We're gonna talk
that
about
his brother built for them.
This up. Yeah. That was his brother?
Yeah.
Now you want to go? Now we can do Exodus 40.
All right, so now we're on Exodus 40. The tabernacle erected
Giggity.
and its equipment installed.
Giggity, giggity.
So really, we finally get to the covenant is going to be placed into the ark in this section. So they're actually, this is what you've been waiting for, right?
I have been waiting for this, but I was a little confused because the Lord says, you will do this. You'll set all this shit up on the first day of the first month forever until your journey's over. First day of the first month of the year.
I don't think the Lord says it. I think they're telling you, it's a year now. Like, it's letting you know a year's passed since they've been at the base of the mountain, the Israelites. Right. So on the first day of the first week of the first month of the first year, it's like that kind of thing.
Right. So they didn't actually build it till the first day of the first month of the second year.
Right. Gotcha. Correct. So they completed it. Everything is complete, and they're ready to go after about a year of being there.
All right. So they put it together on year 2, day 1.
Yeah, star date.
I gotta assume that they had to store this stuff between when they actually finished bringing it all to Moses and when day 1 finally came around, right? Because let's say they started this January 1st,
okay,
but it took them like 6 months to make all this stuff. So they had to store all this shit for like 6 months, and then on day 1, year 2, they put it all together. Do you think someone was like, "Yo, has anybody seen the lampstand?" Because it's just boxes piled up in the attic?
No, you don't think they're like putting everything together as is? Like, what do you think?
No, they brought it all to Moses, like in pieces.
Oh, yeah, you said that, yeah. And then you went through that extensive list.
So they had to store it somewhere.
I guess it's kind of like the Statue of Liberty, you know? Like, the Statue of Liberty wasn't sent as one, like, massive statue. Right. It was like, it was sent boxed up and, like, in pieces, and, like, you had to assemble that shit. That's, like, the worst kind of gift you can give somebody, by the way, you know? It's like, here, good luck assembling this shit.
Some assembly required.
Right. It's like the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, but this is a lot of small shit. This had to be hundreds, thousands, maybe of boxes.
Yeah.
And these people have small attention spans.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine they packed this efficiently and whatever. So on the first day, they need to.
And by the way, they're not stationary. They're about to be on the move, right? They're not hanging. So like they've built all this shit. They're gonna wander the desert.
Yeah, I'm getting to the end of this, and I'm not really sure like when they decided to actually start wandering. I guess you know what? I guess it was. Oh, maybe it is here. So he says
it is here. I have this part like to read.
But before you do that, on the first day, build it, put everything in it, consecrate it, make it holy. The altar must be the most holy. So I'm going to say I finally figured out what holy means. Sanitized. It's got to be sanitized so it doesn't kill Yahweh. That's what holy means.
I like it.
Because the altar must be the most holy because that's the most...
But I like it if the premise is that all of this actually happened and is not just a funny thought exercise that we're discussing.
Well, what's the difference?
So I just want to take a step away from Scott and say, I'm really not saying that this is an alien. I'm saying it's an alien if this happened, which it didn't happen. But it's a funny premise to talk about. Scott, it seems like, is saying that this actually did happen.
So why are we talking about shit that didn't happen?
So I just want to clarify it.
So why are we talking about shit that didn't happen?
Because people believe this happened.
We could be talking about any fiction, like Fantasy Island, for that matter.
Right, but Fantasy Island doesn't have its own religion with, like, fucking currency that says, in Mr. Rourke we trust on it. We decided to do this because we live in basically a Christian country with, like, all these Bible thumpers and Second Amendment fucking assholes.
Yeah, and make sure that Aaron and his sons wash themselves and put on their bio/spacesuits before they approach the most holy sanitized altar. And then comes year 2, day
Counterpoint.
1. Yep.
Have you ever seen American Psycho?
I have not.
Okay. There's a great scene where he...
Is that a movie or a series?
It's a movie. It was first...
Skinny white guy?
First a book, then a movie. It's about the 80s. It's about, like, 80s, like, stockbrokers. It's Christian Bale.
Okay.
You know who Christian Bale is. He was Batman.
Yeah, he killed himself, right?
No, he's alive.
Oh.
You're thinking of Heath Ledger.
Was he Batman?
He was Joker.
Oh.
So Christian Bale
Quite the riddle there.
plays an 80s like stockbroker who's crazy. And there's a scene where he has like a friend to hit, or he hires 2 hookers. And he's telling one hooker to like watch the other hookers like pussy, like real good, because he's going to like fuck her, you know? Mm-hmm. And like he wants her really clean.
Right.
It's very possible because we still haven't seen Joshua. Joshua like went into Yahweh, right?
Oh,
Yahweh had his way with Joshua, and now Joshua's dead. Now we've got Aaron's 2 sons who he wants super fucking clean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So maybe he wants them clean, not so much he's afraid that they're going to get irradiated. Maybe he wants them super clean so when he like licks their asshole or whatever he's going to do with them, they're clean. Because they're in the fucking, they're like out in the wilderness, you know what I mean? And he wants to go to town on them.
Interesting.
You don't want like that stank, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
Your nose all up in there.
I don't know if I like the way this is going. So do you think that really happens? Or it's just a story?
I hope it happened. Look, you have your fantasies. I have my fantasies.
All right. Okay, so they set the whole shit up. They put the covenant in there with more excruciating details. It's basically what we said in that episode when they described it in the first place. They're setting up the airlocks, the meeting places, all that crap, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm. Then we get to the cloud and the glory. So I'm going to read this whole section, okay? This closes out the book of Exodus. Yay. So, Exodus 40, verse 34. Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Mm-hmm. Moses was not able to enter the tent of meeting because the cloud settled upon it, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Whenever the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle, the Israelites would set out on each stage of their journey. But if the cloud was not taken up, then they did not set out until the day that it was taken up. For the cloud of the Lord was on the tabernacle by day, and fire was in the cloud by night, before the eyes of all the house of Israel at each stage of their journey. Go ahead, Scott.
This should have been entitled.
This is like your shining...
more evidence of they were aliens in a spaceship.
Sure.
And you know what? It's a smaller spaceship. It's like a shuttlecraft.
Right.
When they were on top of Mount Sinai, that shit was huge.
That's not quite the mothership, but maybe like...
Yeah, it's definitely a larger
It's
ship
like an
than this.
RV with like, you know, a motorcycle or car attached to it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And this thing is probably the motorcycle that's landing now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Because the glory of the Lord fills the tabernacle. You mean the big flames that are coming out of the freaking retro rocket? That? Come on, man. Come on, man.
I mean, it's very descriptive of, you know, if there was an alien. Very descriptive of if there was an alien.
And the reason they didn't leave...
Why is he coming down every so often to eat, right? And to stick his nose into Aaron's son's rectums.
We haven't figured that out yet, because how long since they got these instructions from Mount Sinai to build all this stuff, and they actually then day 1 of year 2 comes around,
right?
Like how long?
I don't know.
Did Moses get all the instructions? The ship took off.
Yeah.
They took months to do this. And then when they built it on the day 1, the shuttlecraft landed.
I'm going to say it took almost a full year because Moses was on top of the mount. So they arrived at Mount Sinai like a couple of weeks after they fled Egypt. Then Moses went up like the mountain with like the priest. They hung out for a little while. Then God was like, you, Moses, come up here. Oh, and bring Joshua, by the way. I really like Joshua, so bring him up. And then Moses was up there for 40 days. The Israelites went fucking buck wild, right? They had their, like, rituals with, like, their idol. Moses came down after 40 days, saw this, got all pissed off, went back up to God. So let's say it took another 40 days for God to, like, write with his finger on the new, like, stones that Moses made. So let's say, so 80 plus 80 is 160 days. So about half a year. Let's say it took half a year to build all this shit.
All right, that's fine. Oh, did we mention that they actually put the tablets in the ark?
Yes.
Finally? Oh, we did mention that? Okay.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes. I said we've been like, this is what Scott's been waiting for. Like,
oh, yeah. Yeah. So he puts
the covenant went into
the ark, right?
Yeah.
So now Raiders of the Lost Ark can be a true story.
Correct.
All right. So maybe the fire in the cloud at night wasn't so much rocket fuel anymore. It's nighttime, but they had like blinky lights.
They had lights on,
stuff,
sure.
You know,
sure.
Which to the
like air traffic has lights,
which the Israelites would be fire.
Right.
You know, they didn't know it was like LEDs or whatever the hell they use.
Sure.
And they wouldn't leave while the cloud was there because, why would you leave God? And God wasn't done giving you the instructions. So when God lifted off, he was like, break all your shit down, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
So now we know that he wants them to do this the first day of every year.
What? No.
It's the first day of the first month of every year.
Yeah.
He does this, no, right?
No.
Yes. Basically the first day
What
of
do
the
you have
year.
written down?
I've got first month of the first day of the first month of the second year.
Yeah. And that's...
Oh, wait, he does this every month?
That's how the chapter started. I don't know what that means.
They're supposed to set this tabernacle up at a set interval.
The Lord spoke to Moses, on the first day of the first month, you shall set up the tabernacle of the tent of meeting. You shall put it in the ark of the covenant, and you shall screen the ark with the curtain. And then he goes on, blah, 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 blah. He's basically telling them, on the first day, this and that, that's when you're going to pack up the shit. It doesn't mean like in perpetuity for...
I thought it did. See, I totally thought it was like yearly they were going to do this.
He's just telling them like, on Saturday, we're hitting the road. Not like every Saturday we're going to hit the road.
Oh, all right. So there's no reason to expect then that a year, 365 days from now we're doing this. Okay, I misread that. Because damn, I had a whole theory on that too.
Yeah, what was your theory on that?
That if it was really the first of every year... They were stuck in one point in space, and they had to wait for the Earth to come back around.
Like geosync,
but not geostationary, more like heliostationary, like a certain spot around the sun. They were stuck.
Okay.
So, but that doesn't mean shit unless this comes like it's going to be every year.
Yeah.
So we're done with Exodus.
I mean, yeah. What are your thoughts?
Okay, I got to say this. To further the whole alien thing, we talk about Mount Olympus was the Greek gods. Why a mountain? Why in that cloud up there on the top of the mountain?
Well, I can give you two answers. I can play along with you, or I can give you like an actual answer.
Give me the actual answer.
For real?
Close to heaven?
Sure.
Okay. That's a good theory.
Not earthly, like up in the fucking sky.
Why did humanity choose that God would be up and not down? Why didn't they look to the earth for God?
Because at night, well, the sun, the moon, the stars,
right, and they can actually feel the earth. Like that's like of humanity. That's like corporeal. That's something they could feel. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
They bury people in the earth. You know what I mean? Like it's.
Well, maybe they should bury them in the sky and where heaven is.
Yeah.
All right, so Mount Ararat. It makes sense that there was a flood. That's where the Noah's Ark would end up, on the mountain.
So,
and then the pyramids and Stargate. I don't know, man. But let me tell you this: I did not like this fucking story, man. I got to tell you.
Well, there are two stories here. Like, I feel like the book of Exodus has, like, two distinct parts. Like, the Egyptian part, and then, like, the whole wilderness Mount Sinai part.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't two parts, yeah. You're right. All right, so let me break down the first part in recap. Yeah, I didn't like that part.
You don't like that part.
I don't like, listen, no.
You mean it wasn't fun?
No, it was it was a great, interesting read, but I am not a fan of this God, and I'm not a fan of these people.
But it's not a god. It's Yahweh.
I'm not a fan of Yahweh,
Yeah.
and I'm not a fan of the people that are following Yahweh at this point.
Okay. So Yahweh, it's obvious why you don't like him.
Yeah.
He's antisocial. He's a narcissist, right?
Yeah, we went through all that. Yeah, he sucks.
Why the people?
I'm sorry. You know what? In the first part, I can't say I dislike the people because they were living under oppression, slavery. You know, I really don't think I can blame any group of people that are oppressed for their behavior. You know, we can't just say, "Oh, they were enslaved 200 years ago. Why don't they just go out and get jobs?" Like, no, it's not that fucking simple. So I can never get mad at an oppressed people, but
They're stiff-necked.
they're stiff-necked. They are stubborn. But they had to be. Imagine being under the whip of the Egyptians like for so many years. You just had to like. You don't want to look around. You just gotta.
But I
hope to make it through the
feel
day.
like they obeyed the Egyptians, right? I think they took the Egyptians, it seems like, more seriously than they took Yahweh, especially when they were in the wilderness. He gave them a rule. The first rule, thou shalt have like no other gods before me. And then like within a month, they've got like a golden calf and they're like doing rituals.
So we're going to say that's in part 2 of Exodus, right? That's the second part.
That's in the second part.
So I'm going to say during the second part is when I don't like these people.
Right. But during the first part is when Moses was a fucking asshole.
Right. Oh, I'm going to get to that. And on top of not liking these people, Moses is like the MVP for the worst person in the Bible so far, by far.
No.
Who's worse?
Than Moses?
Who's worse than Moses? What human has been worse than Moses?
I didn't like Isaac. Isaac's the guy that lied to... No, not Isaac. Israel. Okay. Israel was not Isaac. Israel was Isaac's son.
Israel was Abraham.
No, Abraham was the father. Isaac was the kid that Abraham was going to kill. Then Isaac had that one kid that was like a dope that traded away his whole birthright for...
the guy you were on the team of.
Right, and the guy that you were on the team of is who I'm going to say was a piece of shit. I think that's Isaac. Now I can't remember.
Okay,
so I can't remember Abraham's kid's name.
Okay, did any of these people like kill 4,000 people? Did any of these people?
Jacob. His name is Jacob. Jacob's ladder. Remember, as he was fleeing after he fucking stole his brother's blessing. It wasn't enough that he took the birthright, remember? Like him and his mom conspired to steal fucking Isaac's blessing on his supposed deathbed, even though he didn't die for like another fucking 80 years.
For a long time.
It was fucking ridiculous. Right. Jacob was kind of a piece of shit.
Okay, you know what? And we can go all the way back to...
He wasn't a murderer, though.
We can go back to Abel and Cain. Like Abel murdered Cain or vice versa?
Cain murdered Abel.
All right, so you can say Cain's an asshole, but he murdered one person.
But
then you can say,
I'm going to say that Cain wasn't really an asshole because God rejected him for no reason, by the way.
So you kill Abel?
But there's 4 people in the whole world...
You gotta kill somebody.
Right? Well, it's not that you have to kill somebody, but there's only 4 people in the world, right? And he's really like a child because when there's only 4 people, how unsophisticated are you? You don't know shit. You know, like we have the benefit of having like media. So like...
And billions of people before us.
As dumb as you are and as little as you know... Right, I'm pointing at Scott.
I think they feel it.
Like, you know way more than someone from, like, thousands of years ago because they didn't have access to this. So, the more sophisticated you are, the more in control of like your feelings and emotions you are. So Cain gives God like his vegetables, and God is like, God created everything.
Yeah.
And God was like, fuck off with that. I could see, I'm not saying he's justified in murder, but I can see.
I can understand.
As opposed to generations later where fucking Jacob conspires with his mom to like steal his brother's fucking blessing.
What the fuck is a blessing?
He's already got the birthright.
Yeah.
He's going to take everything.
He is he would become a multi-millionaire billionaire in today's world because he's got that kind of like fuck everybody attitude. I'm going to go for mine.
Then he also had sons, by the way. Speaking of the worst person in the Bible, he had sons who ran through an entire city of freshly circumcised people who had nothing to do with anything.
Okay, yeah.
And they killed those people.
Okay.
Let's not forget that.
Yeah. Do you remember how?
Let's not forget God fucking bombing Sodom.
We're not talking about humans now.
Oh, okay.
Nobody's going to beat God death count.
All right, well then what about Lot's two daughters who got him drunk and then raped him?
Again, but it's such a small on a planetary scale. It's small potatoes.
What about?
Listen, everyone you're describing right now, at the time they were described, they were the worst person in the Bible.
Okay.
So you're thinking it can't get any worse. I'm just saying Moses made it worse.
All right.
Moses is worse.
Why?
Okay, he was like we said, I think in the last episode. He kills the first act we meet him, he kills somebody.
He steps out of the palace, first day out of the palace.
Murders somebody. And tries to hide it.
Right.
And was obviously seen because they called him out on it later. He was a party to all the firstborns in Egypt being killed. That was part of it.
Sure.
He was a party to all those plagues and shit. Mm-hmm. He was a party to luring all the Pharaoh's chariot people to their death, flooding them. And even that's not, I don't even, that's not even so bad.
Well, define he was a party. It seemed like Yahweh already had a plan.
Okay, all right, so you're right. So I'm just going to say Yahweh had a plan and he kept hardening the heart of the Pharaoh. But I'll tell you what Yahweh didn't do. You remember during the golden calf party?
Sure.
And God said, I'm going to burn them all, go down and watch it.
Right.
And he goes, no. And he convinced him. And you had to remind me that, no, God was down. All right, cool. I'm not killing anybody. Yo, he got 1,000 people together to murder 3,000 of his own people.
Yeah.
For no fucking reason. And I was thinking about this. So he recruited a small group of people to attack and kill 3,000 people that did not worship the same God. Sound familiar? Wasn't like just like 22 years ago, a small group of people got together to kill 3,000 people because we didn't believe in the same God? Yeah. So that's why
I don't think
Moses is the biggest. And Moses didn't even, like you pointed out, didn't even just kill people that didn't believe in the God and were celebrating the golden calf. He said, go kill your brother, your friend, and your neighbor, each. So most of those people could have been innocent. Moses is a monster. I understand for the Hebrews and the Israelites, he's a savior. He's the greatest guy since sliced bread. Mm-hmm. Do they have sliced bread yet? No, it's all unleavened, right? You go to slice it, just breaks into fucking pieces. Bread sucks, man. Do you think they mentioned sliced bread in the Bible?
I bet you they didn't have sliced bread. I bet you had to slice the bread. I think sliced bread refers to like you go and buy the bread sliced already.
Yeah. Nah, I don't think they sliced. They probably pulled it apart with their mitts.
Gross.
Yeah, of course.
You don't think they had knives? They had knives. They had swords.
Only to kill people with, not to use.
But you don't think somebody was like, it would be a cool idea, like if we took one of these massive like blades and like made it like hand size, so at home we can like cut up meat. They had to have knives.
Instead of cutting limbs,
they definitely had knives, and they definitely cut their own bread. Come on, let's be reasonable.
Nah, I think it was just like the bread was round, and they just like either. I bet you forget they didn't even rip it apart. They probably took a bite out of it and passed it to the next guy.
Gross.
Yeah, duh. Why do you think Yahweh wanted them to wash? These people were filthy animals.
Gross. All right, so
I'm going to say right now, Moses is the worst human so far.
So I'm not opposed to saying Moses is a big piece of shit, but I will say this. I can understand what Moses did Because there's evidence to oppose what the Israelites were doing. So the Israelites, in stark contrast to what their instructions were, started worshiping a golden calf, even though they had already seen and heard Yahweh. Right? They heard his voice. He made an appearance in front of them. And then he disappeared back up like the mountain. I'm not saying they saw his physical form, but like it seems like his presence was made known and they heard him, you know what I mean? Like in some way a physical appearance was made, like early on. So like they should have known better.
But you know what? Yahweh didn't exact the vengeance.
And
Moses
Yahweh wanted to kill, it seems like he wanted to burn all of them and start over.
Right. And I could understand.
And so Moses, it seems maybe Moses, that's how he saves them. You know, he saves them.
I pointed that out, and you pointed out to me, no, Yahweh already said, all right, cool, I'm not going to kill everybody.
I know, but maybe Moses that wasn't written about. I guess there's two ways of looking at it, right? There's the text, and then there's the subtext.
Which is what we discussed both last time, and now you're saying that maybe it's possible.
I'm just working through like Moses being the most evil person. I get it because of the numbers, you know, the sheer numbers.
What do you think is worse, raping your father and getting pregnant by him, or killing 3,000 maybe innocent people?
I think raping your father might be worse. I honestly think like getting your dad drunk and raping him.
Yo, but that's just some hillbilly fucking trash shit that goes on.
And really think about that, bro.
I don't want to really think about it.
Like, think about if you were given the choice. You know what I'm saying?
Here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Who was it that got raped? Abraham?
No, Lot.
Lot got raped.
Yeah.
Lot was, like I said, Lot wasn't getting no ass anyway. Lot
had two daughters.
Lot was pretending to be asleep, going, "Oh God, what's happening? I hope my daughters aren't fucking me right now." Yeah, so I'm not so sure about any of this, man.
Okay, you're not so sure about any of this, any of it.
But I am sure the Levi Strauss guys recruited by Moses were like yo, man.
Well, look, I think it's safe to say whether or not Moses is the worst person in the Bible so far that we've encountered, I think it's safe to say that almost every human that the Bible has focused on has been severely flawed for the most part. Abraham was severely flawed.
Not Joseph. I don't know. He was flaunting that damn Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Joseph, I said for the most part.
Yeah.
Israel was severely flawed. Right? That was Jacob. He became Israel. So Abraham, Isaac was flawed. Like they're all flawed people.
Well, his earliest childhood memory was his dad raising an axe to cut his head off on the top of a mountain.
Well, for whatever reason. So it's almost like this is the ultimate gaslighting like book, because these people are put into a position by Yahweh where they're making these horrific choices, right? And then Yahweh's like, all you people are pieces of shit. I'm going to kill you all. Like, I hate you. But, like, all those events only occurred because, like, he's kind of, like, forcing their hand. And so the book's written like people are shit and we need Yahweh to set us straight. Like, that's pretty much like what I'm getting so far from Genesis and Exodus. People are shit, and we need Yahweh, the Lord. You know, in the Bible, it's the Lord, to set us, like, to keep us on the path. It's through his grace, like, that we are alive, and his forgiveness, and, you know, all that stuff.
All that happy crappy. Okay. I don't know. I'm not a Moses fan. So what's coming up next? Leviticus? I like that.
So hold on. So after
there's more.
Yeah, so Moses gets out of Egypt, and now we're like at Mount Sinai, and there's like the laws that get passed down, right?
Mm-hmm.
The church gets established pretty much. They talk about the priesthood, like the establishment of all of that kind of stuff. So again, there's two ways of looking at it, like the alien way, right? Or
The
like
right
the
way.
through like the historical lens of like the origin story of the creation of the temple or the church, and like why the vestments, and like, you know, sort of like they're retro conning like their whole religion.
I think you had said this last time, or one of the times, that maybe, you know, we can't blame the humans in the story because Yahweh's so manipulating them. But what if Moses had a part in writing this story and he knew he was a monster, so he made it sound like he was doing Yahweh's work? Right?
Okay.
Right? You said like it's a narrative to explain how we got to where we got.
Yeah.
And maybe cleansing you're dude, man, you're a 9/11 terrorists as far as I'm concerned. Even the body count's almost the same.
Right.
The principles are the same. You worship a different God.
Well, I mean, honestly,
So I'm going to kill innocent people at their jobs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's no modern society that exists, or no empire, or no religion that exists with clean hands.
Yeah. And Moses was a sellout to his own people.
I mean, we're in the United States of America. What do you think? Like, our hands are clean? You know?
We're not talking about that. That's another podcast. Somebody can talk about it.
I'm saying, like, some of the people that we consider heroes of this country.
Yeah, we're not talking
like
about that.
Mass murderers.
And Moses is a sellout to his own people. Because some of those 3,000 people were probably on the sidelines going, yo, this ain't right. They shouldn't be rushing that golden calf. Ugh! Why am I dead?
Yeah, because it wasn't everyone that was like worshiping the golden calf.
Yeah, yeah.
By the way, Leviticus, Levi. Leviticus, Levi. So
is he like the evil Levite? I am Leviticus. Of Borg.
I just think it's like focusing on the Levites for some reason.
Oh, okay.
Or it was written by the Levites, you know.
Oh, I did have another note here that this should have been followed up in Genesis, but you remember Sodom and Gomorrah?
No.
Yeah, you did.
What was that?
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Fire and brimstone.
Never heard of it.
Oh yeah, you know they were all butt rapey.
I remember. That's where Lot. By the way, you want to talk about a piece of shit? That's where Lot took those two strangers into his house. And then, like, the mob showed up because they wanted to rape the two strangers. And he was like, nah, why don't you rape my daughters instead?
And now, in that context, all of a sudden, them raping him in exchange, they don't sound so bad.
I mean, they all sound terrible.
But what if...
In all fairness, they did grow up in Sodom, though, right?
I saw a good meme. It was Lot and his two daughters sitting at the dinner table.
And there's salt. Past the mom.
Past the mom and pepper?
Yeah.
All right. See, do I interrupt your jokes, man? I don't fucking interrupt your jokes.
It's such a bad dad joke. It's just a bad dad joke.
Okay, so getting back to the fire and brimstone, because they were just so nasty and butt rapey and dirty, maybe fire was a metaphor for like raging VD. Like their genitals were on fire. Like they got,
right.
It burned a lot when
the cloud of God descended upon the tent.
Yeah. They had like fucking, what do you call that?
And Aaron's sons were in there. Flames.
They had antibiotic resistant gonorrhea is what they had.
And maybe that's what the cleansing was all about, and like the anointing of the oils.
Oh shit, it was a trip to the clinic.
Or like it was preventative like measures.
Sodom and Gomorrah were both whorehouses. And they destroyed them after they got all on fire. And the brimstone was them destroying, like knocking down the brothels.
Bro, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil,
yeah,
that was just like some shit that had VD in it. Like if you ate like the fruit, you were going to get VD.
Man, you took it too far.
Oh, sorry. What apple?
So, all right, the fruit had some VD in it.
Yeah.
That's not how it works, man.
How's it work, Scott?
By sitting on a toilet seat when the previous person was infected.
That makes sense. All right.
All right, so what are we doing now, man?
I don't know. I guess that's it. Like, we're just going to end abruptly. It feels like, it's like Exodus, man. It's 2 books down. Genesis, Exodus, and we're just going to end it?
I wonder if you weren't so nasty to me at the beginning of the episode. Like, I'd be more inclined to have things to talk about. But now I'm just getting over the hurt.
Maybe.
I got this thing I could unwrap, but it's only... Like, should that be an end of episode? There? Nah, the beginning of episode. Yeah. Talking about that for a long time.
All right. I guess that's it, man.
Season 3, man.
That's Exodus.
Oh, wait. Oh, man. There was something I put on the website that you were wrong about.
I was wrong about something?
Something.
It was a fact check? When did you put it on?
Something. I don't know. A couple days ago. Maybe yesterday. I don't know when the fuck I did it. That's you.
All right. We'll see you on the other side.
Other side of what?
Other side of Leviticus.
You mean we're skipping over it?
No, I guess we'll see you in Leviticus.
Wait. What, you're going to know Leviticus? Man, you got some fire and brimstone in your pants. All right, peace.
Peace.